Shalom. I'm doing this video to promote an amazing book called The Israel Test by George Gilder. In fact, he was just here at the synagogue not too long ago and spoke about the book. It's just an amazing book. I want to summarize it for you and just give you a few passages from it. Basically, he says that it's incontrovertible that Israel has been the most successful nation per capita in the world in the last few years. Not only that, it's driving most of the world. He says, for example, on the statistics of what's going on, he said that as it approached the end of the first decade of the new century, Israel was the global center of microchip, telecom, optics, software, biotech, medical device research. The country's development and entrepreneurship rivaled only by its partners in Silicon Valley. As one prominent U.S. engineer put it, when I became VP of Business Development for the rest of the world, it was obvious that Israel is now the capital of the rest of the world. And going back in history, thinking back not too long ago until about World War II, he says the following, that nonetheless, an objective observer must acknowledge, without the contribution of Jews in Europe like Einstein and von Neumann and their many associates, without what the Nazis insisted was Jewish science, there might be a mathematician or two in Göttingen, but there would not be, as Churchill said, a free man in Europe. Just as Jews saved Europe, Jews can now save the rest of the world. Now, what is the Israel test? The Israel test, basically, by Gilder, says the following, that half the world sees that the world economy is a zero-sum game. There's only so much money, and if certain countries have it, then the poor don't, and those countries that have it, it should be taken away from them and given to the others. Here's how one reviewer wrote it. That's why Israel divides the world. Its opponents in the West, concentrated at the UN, transnational bodies, and humanities departments of academia, are those who consider capitalism a zero-sum game. On the other side are those who admire success and recognize that everyone benefits by the accomplishment of achievers. So anti-Semitism is also a similar zero-sum delusion. Collectivists and their apologists envy Jews since they're unable to emulate them. They try to destroy them. Now, Israel has been the most exciting country in the world. The reviewer notes that Gilder says that Israel leads the world in per capita innovation, as proved by a Deloitte Touche survey in 2008. The Jewish state outperformed all but the U.S. in software, telecoms, microchips, biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, and clean energy. Gilder writes that the country's growth since the 1990s is primarily due to immigration from the Soviet Union, immigration from the U.S. of people with business acumen and entrepreneurial skills, economic reforms that reduce taxes, regulation, and state ownership from Benjamin Netanyahu, and the fact that there are so many smart Jews. He says that of those with IQs over 140, Jews are represented 6 times higher than the rest of the population. That accounts for probably why 15% of the Nobel Prizes in most of the sciences come from Jews. Not to say that every Jew is smart, but when you put so many smart people in a small space, and you add all the technical training from the people of the Soviet Union who came to Israel, the people with a lot of acumen who came from the United States, Netanyahu opening the economy in the last time he was prime minister, you get this laboratory for significant success. Now, there's another book that's equally good called The Startup Nation, and that author subscribes the same success to chutzpah, the fact that in Israel, in every classroom and in the army, people are always challenging everything. The constant questioning is leading to the success. But here's the basic principle that he says, here's the Israel test. If you support Israel, and you support what Israel is doing, then we have a chance to have if the majority of the world does that, we have a chance of having a good world. But if you're a zero-sum person thinking, oh, there's only so much going on, and if Israel is doing it, then the rest of the world will suffer, then the world has no chance. And one great example is the way in which the Palestinians are understood. People think that Israel is hurting the Palestinians. Well, think about this. As Gilder points out in his book, during the 20 years under Israeli management until the first Intifada, which was started by the Palestinians, the West Bank and Gaza comprised one of the most dynamic economies on earth, with a decade of growth at a rate of roughly 30% a year, from 69 to 79. During this period when Gaza and West Bank were run by Israel, the territories received little foreign aid, the economies boomed, The Palestinians increased their business activity, and their standard of living increased dramatically. And so the Palestinian-Israeli conflict raises the issues of capitalism and democracy, civilization and barbarism. But once the Palestinians started the Intifada, and then started massive foreign aid pouring in, which took away their incentive to produce, the standard of living in the West Bank dropped. But only under a free Israel, unencumbered by Palestinian terror, were the Gaza and West Bank people able to flourish. So if the world wants to flourish, get on the side of Israel and emulate Israel and do what Israel can and let Israel help the world grow. This tiny little country of 7 million is outperforming and outproducing most of the great countries of the world. And in fact, in Gilder's book, he quotes several people saying that fully 25% of all the advances in the world in the last 10 years came from Israel. So that's the Israel test. Do we want a successful world or don't we? If we do, then get on the side of Israel. As the evangelicals always like to quote from Genesis 12, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. It's okay for Jews to quote that too because it's in our Bible. It's in Breshit. If you want to be blessed, then you have to bless Israel.